of them. Evidently, he was planning to re-outfit himself on New Texas. There were a few odds and ends, the kind any man with a real home planet will hold on to, in the luggage. He had another 11mm pistol, made by the Consolidated Martian Metal Works, mate to the one he was carrying in a shoulder holster, and a wide two-holster belt like the one furnished me, but quite old. I greeted the sight and the meaning of the old holsters with joy. They weren't the State Department Special Services type. That meant that Hadi was just one of Natalenko's run-of-the-gallows cutthroats, not important enough to be issued the secret equipment. But I was a little worried over what I found hiding in the lining of one of his bags, a letter addressed to Space Commander Lucius C. Stonehenge, Aggression Department Attaché, New Austin Embassy. I didn't have either the time or the equipment to open it. But, knowing our various departments, I tried to reassure myself with the thought that it was only a letter of credence, with the real message to be delivered orally. About the real message I had no doubts. Arrange the murder of Ambassador Stephen Silk in such a way that it looks like another New Texas job. Starting that evening, or what passed for evening aboard a ship in hyperspace, Hadi and I began a positively epical binge together. I had it figured this way. As long as we were aboard ship, I was perfectly safe. On the ship, in fact, Hadi would definitely have given his life to save mine. I'd have to be killed on New Texas to give Klung's boys their excuse for moving in. And there was always the chance, with no chance too slender for me to ignore, that I might be able to get Hadi drunk enough to talk, yet still be sober enough myself to remember what he said. Exact times, details, faces, names came to me through a sort of hazy blur as Hadi and I drank something he called Super Bourbon, a New Texan drink that Bourbon County, Kentucky would never have recognized. They had no corn on New Texas. This stuff was made out of something called super yams. There were at least two things I got out of the binge. First, I learned to slug down the national drink without batting an eye. Second, I learned to control my expression as I uncovered the fact that everything on New Texas was super something. I was also cautious enough, before we really got started, to leave my belt and guns with the purser. I didn't want Hadi poking around those secret holsters. And I remember telling the captain to radio New Austin as soon as we came out of our last hyperspace jump, then to send the ship's doctor around to give me my hangover treatments. But the thing I wanted to remember, as the hangover shots brought me back to normal life, I found was the one thing I couldn't remember. What was the name of that girl? A big, beautiful blonde who joined the party along with Hadi's grass widow from Aldebaran and stayed with it to the end. Damn, I wish I could remember her name. When we were 15,000 miles off planet and the lighters from New Austin spaceport were reported on the way, I got into the skin-tight Levi's, the cataclysmic-colored shirt, and the loose vest, tucked my big hat under my arm, and went to the purser's office for my guns, buckling them on. When I got back to the suite, Hadi had put on his pistols and was practicing quick draws in front of the mirror. He took one look at my armament and groaned. "You're gonna get yourself killed for sure with that rig and them pop guns," he told me. "These pop guns shoot harder and make bigger holes than that pair of museum pieces you're carrying," I replied. "And them holsters," Hadi continued. "Why, it'd take all day to get your guns out of them. You better let me find you a real rig when we get into New Austin." There was a chance, of course, that he knew what I was using and wanted to hide his knowledge. I doubted that. "Sure, you State Department guys always know everything," he went on. "Like them microfilm books you was readin'. I tried to tell you what things is really like on New Texas, and you let it go in one ear and out the other." Then he wandered off to say goodbye to the grass widow from Aldebaran, leaving me to make the last-minute check on the luggage. I was hoping I'd be able to see that blonde. What was her name? Gale something or other. Let's see. She'd been at some Terran university, and she was on her way home to New Texas, of course. I saw her, half an hour later, in the crowd around the airlock when the lighters came alongside, and I tried to push my way toward her. As I did, the airlock opened, the crowd surged toward it, and she was carried along. Then the airlock closed, after she had passed through, and before I could get to it. That meant I'd have to wait for the second lighter. So I made the best of it, and spent the next half hour watching the disk of the planet grow into a huge ball that filled the lower half of the view screen, and then lose its curvature. And instead of moving in toward the planet, we were going down toward it. End of Chapter 2.